welcome to our seminar with students with offer or accepted status to the Michael Smurfit School of Business in UCD Dublin. Today we will be taking questions from the panel, looking to the concerns that you might have as you come to Dublin in September. My name is Una Condren, the Regional Recruitment Manager for South and Southeast Asia, and I'll pass to the panel to take their introductions.
My name is Sue McAlinden. I work with the UCD International Office and I manage recruitment from the Middle East.
My name is Geraldine McCarthy, and I'm sure most of you know my name at this stage. I'm an admissions manager in the Smurfit School of Business.
And my name is Carol Lusby and I'm the International Student Advisor, and I may well have been in contact with some of you as well, particularly in relation to immigration queries.
Thank you. So what we might do is call on Geraldine now to speak a little bit about the Michael Smurfit Graduate School of Business, and then maybe to give a little bit more information about what you, the student, can expect from the Smurfit experience. Geraldine.
So first of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to the school, and I hope at this stage that you're packing and you're getting ready for your year ahead. It's certainly going to be a very exciting time for you. I have been in contact with most of you quite frequently now at this stage, so I hope I've answered a lot of your questions. When you arrive at the school itself is ranked in the top 100 business schools in the world. So you should expect a very high quality educational experience when you join the school. The Smurfit School has its own particular campus, so it's quite a dedicated environment where you can focus purely on your master's programme and on all the different students in your class. You'll find that your classes are very international. We have a 50% international student rate in the school, and you'll find that because we have that small intimate setting and small classes, that you'll be able to get maximum benefit from your experience at the school. I'm just trying to think what I should actually tell you about arriving. I think really, the most important thing is that that you have those small classes, because your teachers will actually know you when you're in the classes, and you'll get one-to-one attention, not just in the classroom, but from our admissions department, from our program management office, from our careers department, and also from our alumni office. So I think that's probably the unique advantage that we have when you compare us to other schools around the world, that you do get undivided attention when you are there. Most of the other points I think I've raised with you a number of times at this stage in terms of why the school is so famous and so well recognised internationally. So I look forward to answering all of your questions today.
Thank you. And Carol, perhaps you can give a little bit of information about the supports that are available to international students joining UCD and joining the Michael Smurfit School of Business?
Well, I suppose we're happy to say that despite the fact that the University College of Dublin is a very large university with over 25,000 students, it's also a very friendly place, and there are a lot of supports available to students. First off, we have 12 student advisors, and these are scattered around in different areas of the college, looking after particular cohorts of students. Now, international students in Smurfit have a student advisor called Nadia Clarkin, who's available all the time for you if you have any concerns or issues. I'm also the international student advisor, and I'm available as well if you have queries. I know a number of you, as I said already, would have been in touch with me in regards to immigration processes, etc. But we're actually available for everything. If you even have any personal issues, or if you're struggling with course load or anything like that, you have the student advisors to call on. The academics and the administrative staff, I have to say, from my experience as well with Smurfit, are hugely supportive of their students, and you really will be well looked after. On the Belfield campus as well, there's the doctors and nurses and counsellors, and you have availability. You can get in touch with them if you require it as well. So I suppose the main thing to say to you is, if you do have any issues or problems, you should come and talk to somebody sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Geraldine and Susan. So again, we're going to take questions from the general audience today, from fellow students who are joining you in the studies at the Michael Smurfit School of Business. This presentation will be available and emailed to all of our participants today, but also just to say that please do look to the www.smurfitschool.ie website, and the www.ucd.ie/international office website for further information on everything that we touched it to do. So taking one of our first questions, we have a question here from Daniel Weiss, and Daniel, you were asking how many students will be enrolled in the MSc Finance programme. So Geraldine, perhaps you can give us view to this.
Sure. Hi Daniel, how are you? We will have about 100 students enrolled in that programme this year. That programme is ranked by the Financial Times. It's in the top 30 in the world, so it's a very popular programme. So yeah, I think the class is in and around 100 at the moment. We probably can't take any more than that.
Perfect, thank you. And again, Geraldine, I understand that these students will be across different classes as well, so we'll still attain to the small group size despite being 100 students in that intake.
Yeah, possibly for some of your modules you have smaller classes, but for your main core modules you'll be in a large class. And that class also is very international, so there probably will be about 50% international students in that class and at least 20 countries represented in the class as well.
Fantastic. I have a question from Charlotte, and Charlotte is asking how many days a week will we have lectures. So we don't have the programme mentioned to us by Charlotte, but broadly maybe you might give view to what the lecture schedule is.
Sure, so hi Charlotte, how are you? You would have about 12 hours of lectures per week. So that would probably spread over maybe 3 days, but you know, you have a lot of project work to do outside of your lecture hours, group projects and individual projects. So we would actually say to students that you're looking at a 40-hour week, and that's a typical full-time working week here in Ireland. So, you know, don't be kind of confused that you only have 12 hours lectures, that it doesn't sound that much. At master's level, that's quite normal in Ireland, and there's a lot of additional work that you do on your own and in your group.
Perfect, thank you. Carol, I have a question here from a Brazilian student who is asking about when he should apply for a visa.
Yeah, well, students from Brazil don't require to get a visa to come in, but all students who are non-EEA students must register with the Garda National Immigration Bureau. Now, we organise through, UCD organises with the Garda National Immigration Bureau that students can go down and register with them in September and October. So we will facilitate that, and you can check either with your coordinator in the Smurfit School, because we liaise a lot with the Smurfit School in relation to this, or you can check with reception in UCD International for the dates and times that this is on, and also for information on what you need to bring, etc.
Perfect. And I guess if the student is wondering about whether they do need a visa or not, that they can find this information on the website.
The website, and also on the immigration website, which is www.inis.gov.ie, and you should look at that obviously first and foremost for regulations, etc.
Perfect, thank you. Geraldine, another question now from a Nigerian student. Nubi, what is the percentage of international students on the MSc I-Business programme in the coming year?
Okay, well, I don't have exact percentages per programme off the top of my head, but you would probably, the full-time class is about 40 in size on that programme, so I would probably say maybe a third of the class, maybe slightly higher, is international.
Perfect, thank you. Now a question here from Raja in India. I will be entering Dublin on August 29th. When should I report to the university, and what are the other formalities that I'll have to take care of after I reach Ireland? And he follows this with, what is the maximum limited amount that I can carry when I enter Ireland?
The first thing is that if you're staying on campus, the on-campus accommodation opens on Monday the 2nd of September. So you would need to get a hostel or a bed and breakfast or a hotel accommodation for the nights prior to that. The amount you can carry really depends on the airline that you're travelling with, because they're the ones who determine the restrictions on baggage allowance, etc., if that's the question you're asking. If you wanted to bring extra baggage, you can organise to send that from your home with a company that does that sort of thing, but again, arrange for that baggage to come after you've arrived, because there really isn't a storage facility in UCD prior to your arrival for that. Okay, so arrange for it to come the week maybe afterwards. What was the other question, sorry?
The student is asking regarding what they can bring with them and then arriving early. I
Yeah.
think you've covered most.
Yeah, but the one thing I'd say is you haven't said which programme that you're coming into. You need to check with your programme administrator just in case that they're expecting you to come in any earlier than the 2nd of September.
Perfect. Susan, I have a student from Qatar who is asking for some advice on what to bring with them and what to expect from the weather here in Ireland.
Well, it's very important just to make sure that when you're packing, that one of the things that you do keep at hand is any of the documentation in relation to either your offer at UCD or in relation to your visa or in relation to your health insurance, that you have those in your hand luggage at all times. You may be at the airport asked to produce information on that, so it's just useful to keep it with you. In relation to packing, I suppose UCD has a very enjoyable climate. It is a seasonal climate, so you'll get to, I suppose, experience all the different elements of weather. Make sure that you have some different layers of clothing with you. Make sure that you have a rain jacket. During the orientation weeks on campus, there will be shopping tours where you will be able to get anything that you didn't bring with you. So you'll be kind of shown and orientated to Dublin City and to nearby shopping malls that you'll be able to get anything else you need. But just to make sure on the basics, just to have your documentation and some layered clothing and a jacket, you should be able to cope the first few weeks.
Perfect, thank you. So again, we're delighted to see all these questions and have such a large audience with us today, so please do, we invite you for further questions. Question now again for Geraldine. We have Shrey Gupta, who's been offered a Masters in Marketing, and they're asking about the job prospects after the 1 year, both in Ireland as well as in India.
Okay. But I think it's really important to say to you that there are job prospects in certain areas, particularly technology and finance. But in a lot of other areas, it can be a challenge to secure employment. And that would even be for the 1 additional year that you get with your student visa. So the purpose of that student visa, it's not really supposed to be an immigration route. A lot of the international students may look at it from that perspective. The idea of it is that you get a time to spend a year and have an educational experience in the country, and then that you have an additional year then if you do happen to get a job or you want to stay a little bit longer in the country. So there certainly are opportunities in the marketing area in Ireland, but they will present more of a challenge to secure employment in then areas such as technology and finance. Now certainly when you return to India, your job prospects are immediately enhanced. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Having an international education is something that will benefit you no matter where you go in the world. And we all know right now that the economy around the world is a little bit on the weak side. So, you may not see things happening immediately, but certainly for your future and for the years ahead to come, it will make a huge difference having an international education.
Perfect, thank you. And a question here from a US student who is asking whether it is possible to work during the studies, and is this something that you recommend?
Well, we certainly don't recommend it. And that goes back to my answer to a previous question where I said you would have probably a 40-hour week. Now some students do work part-time, so I'm not saying that it's not possible, but we don't really recommend it because of the workload. They're all 1-year programs, and you'll find, particularly in the US, there's a lot of 2 years programs. So we essentially have a 2-year program packed into a 1 year, so it's very intensive. It presents a major challenge when you start, and you will see that. But putting all that aside, there isn't a huge amount of part-time work available here. So you need to keep that in mind as well. I mean, on your visa you can work up to 20 hours, but the opportunities are quite limited to work part-time.
Perfect, thank you. A question again related to housing and accommodation, and a student asking, would it be possible to move into on-campus dormitory on the 1st of September, Carl?
At the moment, as far as I know, it isn't possible because they also let that accommodation out during the summer months, and they'll be transferring over to the student accommodation. You can always contact your coordinator to ask if they can find out about that, but at the moment it's the 2nd, and I'm not sure whether that will change or not.
Perfect, thank you. A question here asking what the student can expect from the orientation, and is it very important to participate in the orientation?
Well, there's 2 separate orientations. So there's the Smurfit School orientation, And on the information portal that you have been sent an email on, you will see the specific date that you're expected to attend. So the orientation is about 2 half days, and those specific dates will be on that information portal. So do make sure you read the information on that. It's really, really crucial. Then in addition to that, there's an orientation on the main campus here in UCD, and all of that information is on the International Office website. So there might be certain sessions like campus tours, or there's things like woodland tours, which I think is brilliant. There's loads of different varieties of trees apparently on this campus, which would be very interesting. Shopping trips like Sue mentioned. So there's things that you might like to join on the main campus as well. So keep an eye on both orientations. But the orientation at the Smurfit School is compulsory. You have to attend. It's just basic sessions on where things are in the school, how to use Blackboard, which is an online notes facility, how to use the library. Really quite basic information, but if you do miss it, it takes a lot of time to kind of get that information from people that you don't know that well within the first 2 weeks. So do please attend the orientation and arrive on time for it.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that the International Office also have a special graduate reception on the 17th of September, which is 2 weeks after the main orientation week, to give graduates an opportunity to meet with one another and to meet with all the graduates on the Bellafield campus as well. It's a good opportunity for the graduates in Smurfit to come up and meet there, so we'd look forward to seeing you at that. I'll also be going down to Smurfit to give some talk on some practical matters such as Garda National Immigration Bureau, etc., and also some cultural adjustment information, so I hope you'll be able to attend that as well.
Perfect, thank you. I have a student, Vikas, who is asking, is there any scholarship program which is still open for the MSc Project Management students?
Unfortunately, all our scholarship competitions are now closed. They are always held earlier in the recruitment season, so at this point there's really no opportunities for scholarship. And I would say to you, if you are relying on scholarship funding, please be really careful when you're thinking about your decision to come to UCD and come to the school, because you do have to be financially in a very healthy position to have a year over here to study and just focus on your studies and not be worrying about your finances so much.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, because according to the immigration authorities, and you may have already applied for your visa, you do have to prove that you will have enough money to support yourself while you're over here. And referring back to the question earlier about working, there aren't all that many part-time jobs, aside from the fact that it's not recommended that you work anyway because you have quite a heavy course load, but there simply aren't jobs, so you couldn't actually rely on part-time jobs in Ireland to fund you for your living expenses.
Perfect, thank you. Patrick, welcome to the conversation. I see that you're asking, I have read that the registration process is going to be started on August 15th for graduate students. When will it be closed so we can look at the final timetable?
Well, the date for that particular process, again, when that's going to be closed, is going to be in the information portal. So I don't have the exact date here today, but I know it's left open for a number of weeks. So just double check the information portal and confirm that date.
Perfect, thank you. A question from a Chinese student who's asking, will all students of different nationalities be mixed together in the same classroom, or is there any segregation of different nationalities?
Definitely not. We would not segregate different nationalities. That wouldn't be any learning experience to anybody really in the school. It's really important that people from all different countries integrate and learn from each other. That's one of our huge selling points too, that we do actually have 50% international students in the school, and it's actually wonderful really. I spend a lot of time walking around the school myself, and there's a lot of group work going on, so you see groups sitting in the common room and groups sitting in the restaurant and in all the study areas, and like in one group you could have somebody from China, somebody from Russia, somebody from Ireland, somebody from Brazil. It's actually wonderful to see people from all those different countries working together. So aside from the curriculum, I think you will learn so much from all of your international colleagues when you're at the school.
Perfect, thank you. I have a question here from a student who's asking, how can they make the payment for the fees?
So initially you make your deposit payment. I'm sure a lot of you have done that by now, and you make that in your online application account. Then if you are coming from a country where you have to get a student visa, there is a minimum of €6,000 required to get final approval of your visa, so you will have to pay that anyway. You can pay that, there's two ways you can pay it. You can use the paid study facility on the fees website, the main UCD website, or you can pay it directly into the UCD fees bank account. And again, the information for that bank account is on the fees website. For the rest of you, if you want to pay it over a number of instalments, that's possible. So there's 3 instalments, one in September, one in January, and one in May.
Thank you, Geraldine. Calvin now joins us from Iran and is asking, can you give us an overall explanation of the registration process?
Well, you know, the registration process isn't really my expertise, to be totally honest with you, because the admissions office don't get hugely involved in that. That's a process that the programme office manage. So if you want a lot of detail on the registration process, you can speak to your programme manager, but it's really not complicated, it's quite straightforward. You literally go online, register for the relevant modules for your programme, and that's it. It's not complicated. There's a lot of information on the information portal, and you will be sent a reminder with additional information coming closer to that date of the 15th of August. So don't be concerned about registration at all.
Perfect, thank you. Carol, perhaps this is something that you might answer. A student is asking again relative to when to arrive. How far in advance, before the beginning of classes, can an international student arrive to Ireland, perhaps maybe to experience Dublin or to get settled? So they're looking to know how early can they arrive before classes begin.
Okay, well, again, it depends on whether your visa or non-visa required, because if you're visa required, obviously you have to wait until you get the visa, and the visa is going to give a sort of a time frame in which you can travel. It says over a period of 3 months, and that just means literally that you can start from the first date that it mentions. You can come into Ireland after that. The visa allows you to come as far as the airport, and then the immigration authorities stamp your passport at the airport, usually for a month, and you are supposed to register with the Garda National Immigration Bureau during that month. Now, most students, if they wanted to come a bit early, would tend to come maybe the second last week in August or the last week in August. But again, I don't know what programme you're doing, so do check, because some of the programmes require people to come a little bit earlier than the sort of 2nd of September. But that's my recommendation, I suppose, to any student really, mid to late August.
Perfect, thank you. And again, just as a reminder to the audience that we do feature some information on coming to Ireland on the UCD International website. So if you select Study at UCD and then see some information about coming to Ireland, what to expect and the preparations that you need to make alongside this. Again, Vikas joins us with a second question. Does the recruiters from companies come to campus to select the students for jobs?
They certainly do. So we have a number of recruitment fairs, first of all. We have 3 every year, and all of the international firms that are based here in Dublin visit the school. And as you probably know, there are a lot of very high profile international companies in Dublin, and they're literally within a stone's throw from the school. So that's a very important feature of our careers programme. In addition to that, certain firms come in to speak to specific classes where they're looking for particular skills. Now, I will say we don't interview very much on campus. There's a few of the firms that do, but the majority of firms expect you to go out to their location, because it's not like in some countries where there's quite a distance between the universities and the companies. Because Dublin's a bit smaller, most of the companies are about half an hour away. But it's very competitive. You know, despite the fact that they do come into the school, they're still looking for the best candidates for the job. So you can expect to see quite a few rounds of interviews for any particular position, and you can expect to be up against the best students from countries all over the world.
Perfect, thank you. Susan, I have a question here from a Singaporean student who's asking what is the cost of living in Dublin? What can they expect to make available each month?
Okay, firstly, I just remind you that there is very good detailed information on the UCD International websites. That's www.ucd.ie/international. You'll see information there for students arriving in Ireland, and there is costings that I suppose show you different variations on it. So depending if you're living on campus, or depending if you're going to maybe share a room within an apartment off campus, it will show you the rough approximations of how much that will cost. We would usually average for a student living in Ireland for 1 year, it would be approximately €10,000. as living expenses. But again, you can go onto our website, see what type of accommodation category you'd either be looking for or you fit into, and it will calculate and give a rough estimation on that.
Perfect, thank you. I see several questions coming across from different students who are asking about campus accommodation. So rather than put it to the panel, I might take this opportunity to advise that if you have not secured campus accommodation, if you have not already been offered a campus accommodation, that this should now be seen as not available, that there is quite significant demand for campus accommodation in Smurfit. We have accommodation on the Smurfit campus but also on the Belfield campus. But unfortunately we cannot fill that demand each year. So if you have not already secured the campus accommodation, we would ask you to look to off-campus accommodation, and there is information again on the International Office webpage but also on the residences page of the university. So we'd ask you to look to this sooner rather than later, just as I see this as a question crossing over. Another question here, this time from a Kuwaiti student, who is asking whether it's possible to get halal food on campus, Susan.
It is indeed. On the Belfield campus there are a number of different restaurant options. The main UCD restaurant serves halal food and also has a halal option. The Belfield campus is also located near one of the largest mosques in Ireland. That has a restaurant and also a shop where you can avail of halal products as well.
Perfect, thank you. Patrick is asking if there is any preparation that is recommended or is possible before going into lectures. So how can he best prepare himself before arriving to lectures in September, Jeremy?
Well, what I would say, the minimum that you can do really is take a look at the Irish newspapers and inform yourself of what's going on here in Ireland in terms of the economy, and also have a good knowledge of what's going on in Europe as an economy. So I would always say to students to have a look at the Irish Times. You will access that online at www.irishtimes.com, and if you're really ambitious you can also have a look at the Financial Times, and it would be important that you look at both of those papers right through your studies. But I think just for the next couple of weeks prior to you arrive, you just tune in, have a look at those, and you'll be pretty aware of what's going on before you go into class in the business world here.
Perfect.
And just to add to that, when you are here, we have Blackboard where a lot of the academics put information up in advance of lectures. So if that's the case, it's a good idea to read all those notes before you actually go into the class. Or some academics choose to put them up afterwards. So again, read them very near to when you have actually attended the class, because that'll help to get much more knowledge into you as a result.
There's one thing I didn't mention actually, and I probably should have as well, based on what Carl said, that we use a method called the CASE method in the business school. Now I'm sure you're aware of that from your research, and that basically means that you have to study case studies prior to going into class. So for a lot of classes you'll already have been given the case study and you will be expected to have gone over it and analysed it critically before you actually go into the class, and then that's discussed. So that preparation is very important when you actually get here and you're preparing for your lectures.
Perfect. Just before I move on to the next question, do you expect students to have their own laptops as they study in the Smurfit School, Geraldine?
Yeah, very important that you have your own laptop. When you arrive too, if you go to the IT department, they'll check it for you and they'll make sure that you're connected to everything you need to be connected to in the Smurfit School. So if you get here a little bit early, why don't you pop into the school? You can ask for me if you want, and I'll bring you down to the IT department, because on the 2nd of September, when all the students are due in that week, we'll be really, really busy. So if you happen to arrive a week or two early, pop into me and I'll bring you down and we'll get you sorted a little bit earlier than the other students.
Perfect, thank you. Coyote, I believe is the Nigerian student that we had a question from earlier in the session, is asking now, can a new student obtain health insurance post-arrival in Ireland, or must it be from the home country?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be from the home country. But as you know, if you've applied for your visa, they expect that you will show that you've got private health insurance. Now, again, you can look on our website and there's information on the health providers in Ireland. One of them that you can actually avail of, which is quite a cheap insurance, is comes under, it's called O'Driscoll O'Neill Insurances. It's €120 per year. and you can avail of that online by simply putting in your student number and going online to www.odon.ie/UCD. If you want a more comprehensive insurance, there's a number of other insurances such as VHI, Aviva, etc., and you can see all that information on our website.
Perfect, thank you. I now have a student, Charlotte, who is coming to UCD as part of the SEMS programme and has asked, how will the places for the semester abroad during the SEMS degree be allocated?
Okay, well, you were asked to put forward about 10 choices when you arrive. Now, we try to give every student their first choice, Charlotte, but some particular schools are more in demand than others, as you can imagine from the list. So if you don't get your first choice, you will get your second choice. Now, if it comes down to, say, 2 people that both want the first choice and we only have one place, the person with the higher academic grade at that time will be allocated that choice. But we do our very best to ensure that you get your first choice.
Thank you. Nisha Prasad is asking, do you suggest buying winter clothes from India or buying it in Dublin once we arrive?
I would say Dublin because it'll be significantly cheaper in Dublin because it's not a speciality in the Indian market, as you can imagine, with the heat over there. So you can get very reasonably priced clothes here. And we do have quite a mild winter, you know, so don't get too excited about it being really cold. We have quite a mild winter, so I think, as Sue said earlier, if you bring layers with you, you'll be absolutely fine. Then you can layer up and layer down according to the temperature. Perfect,
thank you. Carol, perhaps a question for yourself. Again, relates to the visa process. Babak, I'm afraid Babak, you haven't mentioned where you are applying from. You say it's been 6 weeks since you've registered your all required documents as part of the visa process, but I did not receive any feedback at time of putting this question to us. How many days will it normally take?
Well, it can take 8 weeks. You see, at this time of year, as you can imagine, there are students from all over the world applying for visas to Ireland. Now, some of the applications come directly back into the visa office in Dublin, and they have a huge amount of stuff going through at the moment. So it can take 8 weeks, but if it's 6 weeks now, you still have a number of weeks before you're coming over to Ireland. So I would imagine you'll have your visa in plenty of time.
Perfect, thank you. And I suppose just to add to that, that if you have not yet made your visa application, we would ask that you do so immediately. So again, for those students who do require a visa, you can check this information from the UCD International website. We have a link to visa required countries. We'd ask you to check your status. Do I need a visa? Do I not? If you need a visa, going back to a point made by Geraldine earlier, you do need to show that fees, a certain sum of monies have been paid to the university. So we'd ask you to tend to this as soon as possible and make the visa application. Geraldine, a question here from Diogo. I hope I say that correctly. How would one know if they have been considered for a scholarship? Would the committee have already reached a decision, and when would they have heard if they were successful?
Okay. Well, as you can imagine, we get a huge amount of applications for scholarship competitions, so we can only really contact the students that are successful. So if you have been awarded a scholarship, you would have received an email by now. So unfortunately, if that's not the case, you weren't successful this time around.
Perfect. Shrey joins us for another question and asks about the world ranking of UCD, as he says that there are different rankings when he looks at different areas on the internet. So how to look at the ranking of the university, perhaps as a university, but then also to rank at the School of Business.
Well, the university is ranked in the top 1% in the world, and that's based on a QS ranking. So I don't know if you're familiar with QS, but they're one of the largest organisations in the world. You can certainly look into those. The Smurfit School is then ranked separately as number 64 in the world, and that's a ranking by the Financial Times. And the Financial Times is known all around the world. In addition to that, we're ranked by The Economist as one of the top schools in Europe, so they're both very valid sources. To add to those rankings, I did speak briefly about those earlier. We also have what's called the Triple Crown Accreditation, and that's 3 different governing bodies which make sure that the standard of education and the standard of facilities, the standard of teaching in the school are top class. and they basically come to the school every couple of years to reassess a number of different areas in the school so that we can receive those accreditations. We have an American one called AACSB. We also have one for the MBA program, which is called the AMBA, and then we have a European one, which is called EQUIS. Both the undergraduate school and the postgraduate business school have these 3 accreditations, and there's really only about 80 schools in the world that have those triple accreditations, so it's really very important to have those accreditations.
Perfect, thank you. Chen Fu now asks, do we have a chance to go on an internship in the finance program?
Yes, there is internships on many of our programs at this stage, but the finance program, there's 15 internships that are awarded to students based on their academic grade at that time. So you need to be in the top 15 students in the class, which is quite a challenge considering there's 100 students in the class and they're the brightest and the best. But what we also do is we give the student the opportunity to arrange their own internship with some help from the school outside of those 15 students if you want to do an internship as your project in semester 3.
Perfect, thank you. Carl, I have a student from the US that is looking to apply for financial aid to support their studies. Can you advise how they would go about this?
Yeah, one of my colleagues in UCD International deals with the US financial aid, so I suggest that you contact her, and I think she's also put some information on her website about financial aid, so you could look at that. Now her name is Kate O'Hanlon, and her email address is Kate, Kate.O'Hanlon, OHANLON @ucd.ie. So certainly contact her and she'll be able to help you.
Perfect, thank you. Tushar now asks, what are the criteria for getting a work permit after completing his 1 year in the MSc Digital Marketing, and will it depend on grades or anything else, whether I get the permit, or will I get it regardless of anything?
Well, I'll maybe say something first of all. After you complete your degree, you can avail of the 3rd level graduate scheme, which was spoken about earlier. This allows you to stay in Ireland for a year to look for employment. Now, in some cases, Smurfit students have already been offered a job by the end of their course, and they can take that course up then. What they do is they get an extension of the student visa that they already have, rather than being given a work permit, and they can stay around with that for a year. At the end of the year, if they're doing successfully in their particular employment and the employer wants to continue with with yourself, for example, in the job, you and they can work together then to look for a work permit.
Perfect, thank you. Susan, a student now, Huang, is asking whether his cell phone would be usable in Dublin, and is the school covered by Wi-Fi?
Yes, in relation to your cell phone, one of the things that you will have an option to do is that there will be SIM cards that will be provided to international students on the Belfield campus. They're O2 SIM cards. Now, students also have access to avail of whatever other networks they wish to choose. So there's a couple of different network providers in Ireland, and you can choose really whichever one you wish to use should you wish to move off your Chinese network that you already have. In terms of Wi-Fi, the campus is fully available. There's Wi-Fi available across all of the campus, and that's both in the Belfield campus and in the Smurfit campus as well. And there is IT support, as Geraldine has mentioned, in the Smurfit campus, but we also have an IT centre in the Belfield campus. So should you be down here and you have any difficulties or questions in relation to that, you can call into the IT centre here.
Perfect, thank you. Geraldine, a student now is asking who to contact if they have any specific questions about the programme. I understand it's an MSc programme. Is it yourself or somebody else that they would direct their questions to?
Yeah, well, it's the admissions office, so you can certainly contact me at any time during the admissions process if you have any questions on your programmes. When you actually arrive here, your programme manager is the main contact. Now, we also have an international relations liaison officer, and her name is Enrique. She's based in the Smurfit School, and she's certainly there for any concerns that you have throughout the year, in addition to Nadia, who Carl also mentioned, Nadia Clarkin. So there's a lot of support there for any students while they're there and before they even come to the school.
Perfect, thank you. Mona, just following up on a point that was made earlier, says she cannot make the orientation due to travel plans that was made before the acceptance. Would the information be documented somewhere afterwards following the orientation that she could access?
Well, there'll be a certain amount documented and it'll be on the information portal, and you will be able to get information from your colleagues. But I know we have a big audience here at the moment, so I seriously urge you all to attend the orientation. If you do have a really valid reason, like what you've mentioned there, not to come, you have to actually inform the programme manager. So please make sure that you email your programme manager and tell them that you won't be arriving until a later date, because we will literally be ticking you off as you arrive in Smurfit. That's what I was saying earlier about being a very intimate environment. If you're not in class, a lecturer will actually notice, and they will come to us or they'll go to the programme manager to say, where has this person been? So we will literally be ticking you off on the days when you're arriving. So if you're going to be late, we need to know in advance.
Perfect, thank you. Julie Zoo now asks, hello, this is Julie. Having been admitted to the MSc Project Management, I wanted to ask about the possibility of changing major after the fall semester starts. Would it be possible to switch to a different MSc program potentially if I couldn't fit the program I'm admitted to, or I develop an interest in another program area?
I'm afraid not. You have to be very sure that you've made the right program choice before you commence the school. And the onus is on you to do that. Now, you can certainly contact us at any time and we'll run through all the details with you, but you have to be absolutely sure that you've made the right decision before you come here. We don't allow students to switch programs. As you can imagine, we have quite a large population in the school. I mean, we have probably about 1,200 students, and we couldn't have people switching programs because they'd suddenly change their minds. It would be quite chaotic. So make sure that you have made the right program choice. If you want to actually call me or email me, and I'll discuss that program with you in a bit more detail, and we'll make sure it's the right fit for you.
Perfect, thank you. Juan now asks if he can access Blackboard before starting classes. So just perhaps related to the point about the preparations that students can do, he's asking, can I log into Blackboard from China?
No, you won't be able to log in until your first week in the school. But trust me, if you get those newspapers and read them, you know, you'll be kept pretty busy with that until you arrive at the school. It's really only a couple of weeks now to be gathering some information from those papers, and then you'll have plenty of time to look at Blackboard when you arrive.
Perfect. Ekaterina asks, my program is MSc in Strategic Management and Planning. When can I choose option modules for each term?
Okay, well, as far as I understand, you do quite a few of the core modules in the first term. So I think that you'll probably be choosing the option modules towards the end of the first term. Now again, this isn't entirely my expertise, this is more the programme management side. Admissions are very concerned about admitting you and making sure that you've chosen the right programme and processing your application. That's my understanding of how it is, but you're more than welcome to contact your programme manager just to confirm that.
Perfect, thank you. Again, I have to thank the audience. We're seeing lots of questions come through, and we're seeing lots of the same type of questions, so it means that there are similar concerns for students, and I hope that we're answering these concerns today. Outside of the session, as we say, please do contact us if you have any questions so we can answer these. Charlotte, who I understand is an incoming SEM student, is asking whether it's possible to take up a new language during the programme, and is it free of charge for a SEM student?
Okay, there certainly is an option to take up a new language at the Language Centre. Now, I don't know if it's free of charge, Charlotte, to be totally honest with you. That's something I would have to confirm. But I will say to you a point that I mentioned earlier, that the programmes are very, very intensive in terms of the workload. So the chances of you having time to take up a new language, it's going to be quite slim, because for SEMs you have to have 2 additional languages anyway. So any extra time that you have, you would need to focus on, you know, improving your 2 additional languages, particularly the second language. So taking another language with that, I think you would find that a challenge, but the option is certainly there.
Perfect. Corey, welcome to the conversation. Corey asks, will there be any documents sent prior to arriving at UCD? He will be studying a Masters of Management programme.
Okay, well, all of your information is really online at this stage. It's been quite a while since we sent anything by post to any students, so you just need to keep looking at the information portal and keep an eye on your email to make sure that you're up to date with the information that's coming through. There was one other thing I was going to say about that. What was that question again? Aside
About
from
the documentation that the students expect to receive in advance of arriving. So maybe I could just add, for a student that does request support in way of making an application for a visa, they will get an official fee receipt on application, and also a letter to support the visa application.
Yeah, and both of those are acceptable. A scanned copy is acceptable, so you don't actually need to have a hard copy. And for students applying at this stage, a scanned copy would be the most appropriate for them.
Perfect. Susan, a student here is asking how to make contact with other incoming students arriving to UCD in September, so perhaps from their own country, but other international students as well.
Okay, I suppose directing you back to our website would be the first place. And on our website, you'll see that there's a Facebook page where you can actually like, and then perhaps you use that as a portal to meet other students and connect with other students, be it finding students on your programme or finding students that are coming to UCD in general from your home country. So we do see a lot of dialogue going on in advance of students arriving in September, where they're touching base, maybe asking accommodation questions, asking questions about their programme, and just finding maybe a point of contact that they can meet up with when they are in Dublin. Once they've arrived to campus, then you'll have a huge opportunity. As Geraldine has said, there's going to be quite a large representation internationally across their programme. So you're more than likely to meet somebody from your home country, both up in Smurfit and then again echoed through the Belfield campus. And there'll be a lot of social activities that will run, which you'll be able to engage with international students, domestic students, and I suppose different societies across campus.
And I have to add in a little something about the International Student Society, because I have a lot of involvement with them. That's a large society which also has representatives down in the Smurfit School, and they usually put on coffee afternoons once a week, and they have a lot of activities going on all the time, a lot of trips out of at the weekend down the country to see other parts of Ireland, etc. So it's a good society to join. But I think the way Smurfit is set up anyway, you get a great opportunity to meet other students from the different programmes that down in Smurfit, because it's just a very nice environment for people mixing and meeting one another in the cafes and everything there, you know. So I think you'll have no difficulty in mixing in.
Perfect. Question now, what is the course assessment form for the marketing programme? Is it paper, by research, by group assignment? Any information would be useful.
So there's a mix of assessment methods. So the first method would be sit-down examinations, and you would have those at the end of semester 1, which is the first 2 weeks in December, and then the end of semester 2, which are the first 2 weeks in May. You also have a third term, but you won't have any sit-down exams as such probably in that third term. In addition to that, then you're marked on individual project work, and then the third method will be group project work. So you will gather a certain amount of your marks during each semester, and then there'll be a certain percentage left to any sit-down exams that you take. And again, the exact combination of assessment methods will depend on the modules that you choose on the marketing programme, for example, or any programme.
Perfect. And again, I think we direct all students back to the profile of each programme on the Smurfit School website, as it will give a bit of overview to this as well. Carol, a student asks, if I want to visit another European country in the Christmas vacation, how could I get a visa? I am from China. What should I prepare, and how long will it take before I get the permission?
Okay, well, you have to get, if you want to go to Europe, you require what's called a Schengen visa, and you have to do that once you arrive here. You can apply for the Schengen visa to the particular country that you intend going to. The way it applies, if you're intending going to a few countries, you would apply to the country where you intend staying the longest. And it is a very good idea to make your plans early on in the semester, because depending on what country you want to go to, there can be a delay. They usually hold an interview, and some countries have a lot of people applying, and it can take quite a few weeks before you actually get an interview. So that's the process, but it is a separate process to applying to come into Ireland.
Thank you, Carol. Shubham now asks Geraldine, please throw some light on the Masters in iBusiness course and job prospects for experienced professionals after that.
Okay, well, the iBusiness programme, and again I hope that you know a lot of this at this stage, is 50% business and 50% technology. So the idea of the programme is that you will have the skills to manage technology projects when you finish. So you need a little bit of an insight into technology, and a lot of our graduates from India actually have a very strong background in that area, but you also have a good foundation in business to manage a project for a company. As I said earlier, at the moment there are quite a lot of opportunities in the technology area, particularly if you do have a couple of years work experience. So I would say that your job prospects are higher than maybe somebody that's, number one, not coming from a technology background, and number two is a complete fresher, has no work experience. So I think it's certainly one. I mean, in general, the Smurfit School has an 85% employment rate, so a very high employment rate. But for international students that need a visa to stay in the country long term, courses in that technology field would have would have more opportunities in Ireland at the moment than a lot of our other programmes. I think at the moment there's approximately 4,000 vacancies in technology companies in this country, so it certainly has a lot of opportunities.
Perfect, thank you. Susan, Mohammed Faisal Bacha asks, I'm studying the MSc Supply Chain Management and would like to know if any public transport is available between the Blackrock campus to downtown Dublin, since he's planning to stay in downtown Dublin.
We have quite a number of students that are attending programmes in Smurfit living off campus, and Dublin is actually quite a small city to get around, and there are good transport links both from the Belfield and the Smurfit campus into the city centre. I might ask Geraldine just to detail exact transport links from Smurfit to the city centre. I know that there is a couple of bus routes running in and out, if I'm correct.
Sure, yeah, so there, a couple of minutes from the campus there's the Dublin bus, and there's a bus that runs right by the campus there on a regular basis, but you can actually walk to the main campus here. If you're a brisk walker, probably in about 30 minutes. A lot of the academics in Smurfit actually teach on the main campus as well, and they actually walk up and down quite a bit. They say it clears their head. So you can certainly do that if you wish. Now, I just want to go back to one thing there, Shubham, that I made an error on, just to clarify it. I meant to say there was 4,000 technology firms, not 4,000 vacancies. Seeing this is on record, I need to clear that up. So 4,000 technology firms, but a lot of vacancies within those firms. And the majority of the work permits that have been granted over the last couple of years have been for technology positions, and they have actually, quite a few of them have been for Indians in particular because they have those skills.
Perfect, thank you for that clarification, Jeremy. Priyanka now asks, apart from the academics, how can I participate in the sports and extracurricular activities if there are any?
Well, if you want, the week of the 16th of September is called Freshers Week, and on the Belfield campus there's a wonderful sports facility and a new swimming pool that's just been put in over the last few months. So there's an opportunity during that period to join sports clubs, to join other societies as well. And you can take up any type of new sport, or you can continue on with some of the sports that you would have done previously. So that's the week that you actually can join a number of societies and clubs.
Perfect, and again I think that we recommend that should you be able to do so alongside the timetable of classes and study as part of your programme, to engage with the sporting life and with the extracurricular activities on campus, as the UCD students have always attested to be the most engaged students in Ireland. Geraldine, Nisha is saying that herself and her sister Rika will be arriving on the 27th of August to Dublin to do a Masters in Management and Masters in Digital Marketing respectively. Should we go first to the Smurfit campus or to the Belfield campus?
You should come to the Smurfit campus. So all students for the Smurfit School should come to the Smurfit School. Some of the students do make the mistake of going down to the main campus first. Now, it's not the end of the world if you do go to the main campus first, but I think you should, if you're getting a taxi or if you're getting transport, you should aim to go to the Smurfit School first. It does depend also on where you're staying, because the on-campus accommodation is not open on that date, so it does depend where you're staying. But if you want to pop into the school and ask for me, I'll be there. I'll be there to greet everybody. I'm really looking forward to it over the next few weeks, and I can help you with anything that you need at that time.
Perfect. I'm just mindful that time now is coming toward an end, and I see that there are several questions left unanswered to students. Many of these questions relate again to the registration process. Again, we echo that this will be open from the 15th of August, and information will be available to you through your information portal, but also we'll be messaging you directly by email at different stages as well. Questions on the student card, when the UCD Connect account, again we will send information to you directly by email to the accepted students. If you have questions about the accommodation, again, if you have not already received confirmation of place in campus accommodation, we ask that you now look to off-campus options. You can meet with students from your country through the UCD Facebook page or through the LinkedIn page for your programme on the Smurfit School, to perhaps with you to sharing accommodation or looking for housemates. But again, if you have not been given the campus accommodation, now look to off-campus options. Again, we say that there's a lot of information available on the smurfitschool.ie website, but also on the website of ucd.ie/international. Please do stay in contact with us if you have any questions regarding coming to Ireland about your programmes, and we'll be very happy to engage with you about this. So thank you to the panel for joining with us today, and thank you to the audience for your questions. This session will be available after today by email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.